Now, if you're getting started with a spinning reel, there's a number of things to be aware of that are on pretty much all of them. And that's going to, knowing how they work and some of the features is going to help you to not make some of the mistakes that I used to make. And one of them is in casting. So normally I'm going to grab it with a finger, I'm going to open the bail, I'm going to cast it out, and what you'll see is people manually flip it over. Make sure that there's a little tension on it, take up the slack in the line, and now we're fishing. Well, when I was younger, I would never do that. I never knew why you would manually flip that bail over, because when it's open, you can just start spinning and it will close that bail. The problem with that is if there's slack in the line there and you start to crank that and it closes the bail, often you'll get these little loops down in here that, I mean, they're going to be a problem. They're going to end up causing you a mess. So by manually closing it, you're also thinking about it the whole time and making sure that there's a little bit of tension here when you close that, and then you reel it in a little bit to make sure that you're not getting any of that slack in here that's going to cause you a problem down the road. If you get these little loops in here, then you can get a mess. You go to cast, multiple things come out at the same time, and it'll actually look like there's 3 different lines coming out of here. Your only choice at that point is just to start pulling line until it clears itself, get tension back on the line, and start reeling it in. But by manually closing this with a little bit of tension on there, you're going to prevent yourself from having a world of hurt. So definitely make sure that you do that properly. And like I said, I never knew. I had no idea. I was never taught by somebody how to do it properly or why until I started watching some videos on it. Now I understand. Another feature that's on most of them is this switch on the bottom. This is an anti-reverse. So if I reel in, it pulls the line in and wraps it around there. If I try and spin the other direction, the only thing that's going to happen is the handle is going to come off so I can put it on the other side. If we flip that switch, now I can reel in or out. So if I'm fighting something that is, I'm more afraid of breaking the line and I don't want to sit there and really mess with the drag trying to get it just right, I can flip that switch and then I can work that line back and forth with as much pressure or as little pressure as I want, feed it out if I need to, pull it in if I need to, and then when everything is good to go, I can flip the switch back and now the reverse is locked out. So that's a feature. It's on most of them. I never knew what that was about or why you would use it. Now that I understand it, I can use it to my advantage and use it as I want. So also note that with your rods, they are different between spin rods and bait casting rods. The size of the guides are going to be different, and a bait caster, the reel is on top. So you're reeling in differently. The guides are going to be different. The action of it is going to be a little bit different. So you want a rod that is matched to the type of reel that you have. So I had someone put this outfit together for me so that everything matched, and I had them actually spool the line on here. Now, what I will probably do down the road when it's time for me to replace the line on here, right now I'm running pure fluorocarbon on here. Next time I go to re-spool this, and I'm not in any hurry to do it right now, I will probably go to braid on here and then a fluorocarbon leader on the end. Now the reason for that is this line has a lot of stretch to it. When I hook a fish, a lot of that shock is going to be taken up in that line. With braid, it has no stretch. So it's going to change the way that you fish. You're going to be using more of the rod than the line for some of that shock. So you don't want to pull as hard when you've got braid. Braid also isn't going to break. It's going to be the leader that breaks. So if you snag on something and you're trying to pull it in, you're only going to break that lead on the end, you're not going to break somewhere else along that braid. So make sure that your line lasts a lot longer. Fluorocarbon, you're going to replace on a pretty regular basis if you are out fishing quite a bit, but just because you're going to get those breakages, you're going to get abrasions and things that are going to cause problems. Braid can last you 2, 3, 4, 5 years depending on how much you're out fishing. Braid also is higher visibility. So when you're in certain light conditions, you're going to see that line a whole lot easier and see what's happening versus fluorocarbon. If the light is, well, in most conditions anyway, that line is really hard to see. So trying to keep an eye on it is a lot easier with braid, because you'll actually see the braid start being taken before you'll see the rod action, or you'll feel it. You'll see that braid being taken. The fluorocarbon, you may miss because it's just damn hard to see sometimes. So that's another tip there. With your drag, you want to make sure there's a light enough drag so that if a bigger fish snags it, it doesn't just break the line, it's going to start taking line out. So getting that dialed in just right is important as well. I looked, my old fishing equipment never had this little hook right here. Well, this is really handy when I'm getting ready to leave and put everything away. I can take the hook or the lure, put it in here, tying it up, and everything's ready to go for the next trip. So that's a handy little feature that I see on every rod that I looked at. They all had that these days. So things have improved over the last 15, 20 years for sure. And that's a nice little feature. The handles are more comfortable now. There's a lot of improvements in fishing gear since all my old stuff. So that's a couple tips on your spinning reel. There's other tips when it comes to spooling this up and how much line to put on here and all that. We may get into that or some other time, but for now, that's going to do it for that. And in another video, we're going to talk about a couple different knots that we use for tying lures on, tying swivels on, tying hooks on, all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that later. But I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of the spinning reel and some of those features and how to prevent some problems. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.